They told us royalty is built on dignity, unity, and quiet grace. But if there's anything centuries of crowns and scandal have taught us, it's that no throne in history is truly polished. Not up close, and definitely not when the cameras stop clicking. The funny thing? Most people never get to see that part. They see balcony waves, coat dresses, glittering state dinners, gold carriages, and a monarchy that pretends it never breathed the same air as ordinary people. But every once in a while, something slips through the cracks, something raw enough to remind the world that titles and tiaras don't make a person good. They just make them untouchable. Before we go further, subscribe if you're into royal mysteries, scandals, and the kind of stories the palace hopes you'll never hear. It helps us out and it keeps more of these deep dives coming. And honestly, this one deserves an audience. Because our story begins with a photographer, a man who saw more in 30 years than the public saw in 3 generations. Marcus Whitmore, quiet, discreet, respected, and loyal to a fault. The kind of man who photographed history without ever becoming part of it. He'd been there for coronations, jubilees, weddings, christenings, state visits, moments where the world watched with awe. And he'd also been there for the moments where everyone pretended not to watch, the tense whispers backstage, the small smiles between William and Catherine that never made the tabloids, the sigh of exhaustion from a queen caught off guard. He saw it all from 2 feet away. But for 30 years, Marcus kept every secret, not because he was forced to, but because he believed in the monarchy, believed in its symbolism, its continuity, and its mystique. That belief held steady through scandals, divorces, public breakdowns, and the endless circus of royal drama. It held until the day it didn't. That day wasn't grand. It wasn't historic. It was supposed to be routine, a portrait session for Queen Camilla shortly after the coronation, a day of lighting tests, fabric smoothing, crown polishing, and polite poses meant to remind the world that the monarchy was alive, stable, and functioning. Only it wasn't. Most royal watchers won't admit it, but Camilla's public image has always been a careful construction, tender goodwill built brick by brick over decades. Charity work, gentle interviews, modest hats, horses, dogs, books. A slow campaign of warmth and sympathy designed to soften her presence beside Charles. And for the most part, it worked. So when Catherine quietly stepped into that portrait room to pass along a scheduling update, no one expected anything unusual. She offered a nod, moved as gracefully as someone still recovering from a difficult period in her health could manage, and then exited just as quietly. But it was in that fragile few seconds after the door closed that Marcus saw something he could never unsee. Camilla shifted, her expression hardened, her shoulders hunched in mock pain. She exaggerated Catherine's struggling posture, the careful breaths, the protective hand over the ribs, the slowed movements. All of it transformed into a performance designed to invite laughter. And it worked. A couple of aides stifled uneasy smiles. One looked at the floor. Another pretended to adjust a light stand. Marcus didn't think. His instincts did. A click, then another, then a third. If you've ever handled a camera, you know that sound feels permanent, like sealing wax on an envelope. The session moved on. The approved portraits were stunning, dignified, regal. They would go on to fill newspapers, documentaries, glossy magazines, the kind of visuals that make monarchies look eternal. But locked among them was the other photograph, the one he wasn't supposed to take, the one that made something in his chest twist. Eventually, palace officials found it in the review stock. Their reaction wasn't panic, not at first. It was disciplined, controlled, almost rehearsed. The image was flagged, removed, and gently but firmly ordered to be deleted. Most photographers would have complied. Most had, for years. Marcus didn't. He didn't announce his rebellion. He didn't argue. He didn't even hesitate outwardly. He nodded, handed over the approved files, and went home carrying a secret in a flash drive his employers believed no longer existed. Now, pause here for a second because I want to ask you something directly. If you were in Marcus's place, what would you do? Delete it, reveal it, or keep it and wait? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how different people see that decision. Because Marcus chose the third option, silence. Not denial, not destruction, silence. And for 3 years, that silence ate at him. Every time he saw Catherine in public, giving her all to engagements while carefully masking her discomfort, the photograph whispered in his head like a bad conscience. Every time the palace released portraits of Camilla beaming in couture beside Charles, the whisper got louder. At dinners, family events, holidays, it followed him. Then came the intimidation. At first, it was polite. Letters, reminders, clauses highlighted in legal language. Then it became unsettling. Comments about his children's schools, photographs of his home mailed without a return address, strangers asking odd questions. Nothing overtly criminal, everything just close enough to make the message unmistakable. Secrets stay buried. But fear is fragile. It works until it doesn't. And for Marcus, the moment it shattered was during a hospital visit Catherine attended, a charity engagement focused on patients recovering from treatment. She moved slowly, yes, but gently, sincerely, not for cameras, not for applause, for them. That contrast, cruelty in private versus compassion in public, was the broken hinge of the whole story. It turned silence into action. Marcus reached out to a journalist, one with no ties to the palace, no reason to bend. The interview they filmed wasn't explosive in tone. It didn't need to be. The photograph did the explosion for him. When the world finally saw it, context didn't matter. There was no angle from which that gesture was harmless, no lighting trick, no misinterpretation. Intent was baked into the pixels. Instantly, the internet split into 2 camps, the loyalists who insisted it was fake, staged, doctored, exaggerated, and the skeptics who'd always suspected the monarchy's public unity was an illusion. Meanwhile, every newsroom in London scrambled, and every palace aide pulled out playbooks older than some royal watchers' parents. Here's where it gets wild, because the palace attempted something many institutions try during crisis, reframing. They didn't deny the photo existed, not outright. They just questioned everything around it, context, motivation, interpretation. And then, quietly, they tried discrediting Marcus. But something unexpected happened. People didn't buy it. The royal watching community has changed. Americans, Brits, Europeans, even Australians, they analyze body language, compare engagements, notice patterns, and remember slights. And Catherine, whether people adore her or simply respect her, is not someone the public tends to view with cynicism. So silence from William and Catherine became the loudest statement of all. Now here's where I'll pause again. If you're still watching, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this kind of storytelling is worth pushing to more people, and it keeps more of these deep dives alive on the channel. Because after the initial firestorm came the aftershocks, new testimonies, new images, new whispers. Former staffers stepped forward. Footmen, aides, press secretaries who'd been dismissed years prior suddenly had stories aligning disturbingly well with Marcus's account. Little things at first. Eye rolls during speeches, muttered jokes, strategic seating plans to avoid tension between Camilla and Catherine at private dinners. Separately, you could dismiss them. Together, they formed a pattern. And patterns are what destroy reputations, not scandals. By this point, the palace's strategy had shifted from denial to insulation. Camilla's schedule became lighter, engagements trimmed, invitations reduced. Crowds still applauded politely, but if you've ever attended a royal event, you know the difference between applause that welcomes and applause that tolerates. And as the public conversation turned sharper, one question began surfacing again and again. If this is how Camilla behaves behind the curtain, then who is she really? That's when the monarchy's real crisis began, not of scandal, but of image. Not whether a queen consort had mocked a princess, but whether the woman wearing the crown was worthy of it. For centuries, the monarchy survived wars, divorces, abdications, affairs, tragedies, and tabloid infernos because the crown symbolized dignity. And dignity, once cracked, doesn't repair easily. Now, before we close this chapter, I want to hear from you, especially royal watchers from the US and UK. Do you think the monarchy can ride out something like this? Or is public opinion finally shifting? Drop your thoughts below. And if you're new, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next segment. We're going deeper into how the palace responded internally, how Charles reacted privately, and how the international media reframed the narrative. For now, thank you for spending time with this story. Truly, these kinds of deep dives take time to build, and it means a lot that you're here for them. More soon.